I have two bad news for you. The first one is I don't have a video. So we have pretty trees and really nice green and everything around the campus as well, but I don't have a video, so I don't give you that. And the second bad news is me up to the break. So sorry. So a few things. We changed the name of the presentation a few times. I'm going to try to go and try to talk about our journey in Zurich for the last couple of years, what we have been trying to do, and how we have been evolving as an organization as well. So first of all, I would try to talk about who am I and who we are. Then we're going to talk a little bit about where we are in the current, where we were in the journey, how and why we need to do a change of model and a change of mindset into how we were consuming cloud services. What did we do? What benefits we can see already, and in conclusion, three things only that I would like for you to take afterwards, just for you. Hopefully, will give you a little bit of areas to focus in the next few months and so forth. So first of all, I have a bad accent, but I have been working in IT for 30 plus years. So I try to think that I have been learning through that process a little bit more every year, and hopefully I can help a little bit. I've been working in many industries. I started working in industrial design, then worked with some microsystems for a while, worked with in academia for a while in Aberdeen in Scotland. Then because I was there, I worked in oil and gas. For my sins, I ended up working for 3.5 years for Oracle. Yes, don't throw anything. Then I worked for AWS, so that kind of balanced it a little bit. Worked for Vodafone, the London Stock Exchange Group, and now with Zurich. I'm very happily married for the last 22 years, and I have 2 beautiful daughters that make my life a complete hell all the time. But I love them with all my heart. And of course, simplification is the key. So when I moved to Zurich, I decided I was going to work with Zurich and live in Zurich as well. So it was easier, always the same answer for everything. So who we are as a company. We are a company that has been around for 152 years. We started in 1872 insuring boats and stuff like that, and things in boats. I don't ask me how to pronounce that. If anyone knows how to pronounce German, you can try to read it in the right way. I cannot. And then we went into the rest of the world. We went to the US. We went into enabling women's businesses, and trying to look into innovative models as well that we have in the environment. We ended up arriving into Latin America and Australia, so that was giving us the full global remit across the organization across the globe. We moved in the last few years our main core focus. So where before everything was around risk and focusing on business flows in that respect, we moved into being a lot more customer-centric and trying to understand a lot more about how we wanted to fulfill that need of safety and that need of preempting disasters and challenges for our customers. So that changed our long-term vision with Mario Greco, is our CEO. And then that allow us to move into this model and celebrate happily 150 years a couple of years ago. So few stats in that respect. We are very big in North America, in ZNA. We have 2 big business and very big thriving business in there. And we are very big in Europe, as you can see in that space. 60,000 employees in that area. Big company, basically, and global company. What's our interesting thing in our annual shareholder beautiful letter and everything like? Is our purpose. And I always keep bringing this back. So we don't want to just insure people for the sake of insuring. We want to change the model on how we are doing things to create a brighter future for everything and for everyone. Okay, so that's where you're going to see some of the changes that we are making into how insurances have been working and how we are changing that to be much more customer focused and much more centric into how we preempt things and embed things into the process. I'm not going to read through the rest of the slide. That's beautiful. It's in the internet, and you can share it. You can look into that. It's beautiful, and it's a really good guiding principle for all of us in the company. So that was supposed to move next. Excellent. So what are we changing from an overall business model perspective? There are 2 main things that we are looking into modifying, and we are trying to drive into those 2 areas. The first one is If you think about insurance today, something breaks in the house, something breaks in your car, you have a crash or something like that. Okay, we need to repair it, we need to replace it. That type of model is traditional model in most insurance companies. What we want to do is move into a preventive model. So this is the only time I'm going to talk about Gen AI. So some of the models we are using today in on LLMs is how do we actually build that preventive model for the organization? How do we, instead of going through a disaster, we can actually say, hey, you know something? If you drive in that direction, there is an 80% chance that you're going to actually hit a door or a problem or a challenge or so forth. We are looking into lots into North America, into climate environments. We have done a lot with LLMs into the UK, in the UK specifically, to fire insurance as well, and property insurance in that respect. We're trying to create different models of risk in that space so we can preempt those fires by helping our customers to be safer, be better together in that respect. And the second part, instead of what we used to be before, where you have a broker and he will be sitting in an office, or you will be sitting in an office as an insurer, and the customer will come to you. So instead of doing that, we're trying to be part of the overall flow of a customer journey. So you will see a lot more of embedded insurance in that space, where we actually get there for the customer at the moment they need to get that insurance, that safety environment. So how is that translating into our kind of more technology environment? First, from business strategy, if you look into a technology, we need to become a digital insurer if we want to be embedded into digital journeys, into our customer journeys. Everyone is becoming a digital native, or a digital, whatever it is, immigrant, if you want to call it like that, for some of people in my age and so forth. And for that, we need to build more digital first solutions. And that's not cloud first, it's digital first solutions. That then drives into a cloud strategy. And that cloud strategy means that we need to modernize our stacks. And not only the platform, but we need to modernize how we consume the full stack of solutions in cloud, or any solution that we drive in that respect. We need to align into value realization. That's not only FinOps. In many cases, is how do we actually change the architecture to be financial first in some cases. So how do we actually enable experimentation of new products in the organization by enabling the possibility of just trying it with an MVP. That's being aligned to value, because with an MVP, you start seeing some of the value, you can reinvest that value to keep moving and iterate in that space. And that links into increased experimentation in the organization as well to drive that strategy further. That then translates into an operating model that is happening in cloud first in that space, where we look into trying to drive more independence for our business. Okay. Anyone from a business team, or do I dare to say a shadow IT organization in the building? Come on, don't be shy. I'm sure there is someone. Oh, that's amazing. The first time ever in my life that I don't find anyone that is shadow IT or a business IT person. I love those guys, because they are the best people to challenge you to drive something better and to give them the independence inside a set of rails to really drive value to the organization. If you don't let them develop new things, then it's very likely you're going to end up dying as a Kodak moment at some point in your history as a company. Then the next part is this idea of opt-out services. Not everyone is at the same level of maturity. So in some cases, you will like a product that people can opt in and opt out as well. So something, my team has learned everything now. So I don't need someone to come and manage my Kubernetes cluster, because I'm super mature now. Fine, fantastic. Let's see what metrics will actually evaluate your maturity. And there you go. You can crack on with it now. You might be able to optimize it even further because you know your application better, because you know your business processes better, and so forth. Okay, and the last part is the idea of a spoke alignment to regional business requirement. As you saw in the previous slides, we're a global company. We have, do I need to shut up now? We are a global company, so we have this idea of hub and spokes models where we actually deliver a platform centrally, but we have regional spokes that drive that specific needs from a particular business. Okay, and we have very consciously built the organization in that way to Conway's law. We mimic the architecture of what we build with the organization setup that we put in place. Okay, so what levers are we trying to drive, and everyone talks about FinOps and so forth. I try to look more into what are the levers on our digital transformation that we're enabling by using cloud. I will only talk about this for like 10 seconds because it's a very heavy slide, to be honest, if I go into all of them. But I think just to give you 3 areas. One of them is underwriting is one of the most expensive areas that we do in insurance. How do we automate the process of underwriting could actually drive a massive amount of revenue growth for us. Okay, we can actually underwrite a lot faster in commercial insurance if we actually automate 10% of it. Just that it takes 9 months sometimes to underwrite a global commercial insurance product. Okay. Other part around claims handling. Who loves talking to your insurance company to claim when you have a crash or something like that or an accident? There you go. Perfect. I knew that Caroline was going to save me on that one. Nobody does, So you want to have it completely automated. You want to have that. It's somehow a lot more digital native as well. We have many products where we actually go and just take a picture of your car, send it over on an app, and that says go through the whole process. You get your claim, you get it all handled through you, and you just get a call from your garage saying, hey, I'm bringing it tomorrow, and we get it fixed. That type of model will actually reduce a lot of our cost from an operating cost perspective, and we can actually drive a lot more satisfaction for our customers as well. And the last one I was going to talk about is enterprise agility. If we look into how we consume today in most companies, and regulated companies even worse, we have the consumption of digital infrastructure being, let's say, let's call it hampered by a set of workflows that have been built for very static 5-year rotations in a data center. Okay, what happens if I tell you I want to do the same rotation every 5 minutes or every 10 minutes or every 5 days or every 2 days? That's a massive change. That's going to drive a massive reduction in how we work. It will drive a massive reduction into just waste in the overall process. And from our perspective, the more we move and the more we optimize into how we do that enablement, it will help our own CO2 and sustainability processes. Why? Because we can consume less and very much align it to what we need. So that's going to reduce our need for electricity and our need for CO2 emissions as well. So we have a really good, intense exercise in that space, and I'm happy to talk to everyone for like 5 hours afterwards, but I don't have 5 hours today. So where we were when we started with this journey a couple of years ago, not very uncommon. 10, 11 years, maybe 12 years that have been around cloud technology since I was in AWS, and a little bit the last part of Oracle as well. Most companies go through the same process. Someone from a cloud company or maybe from HashiCorp comes and talks to a development team and they excite them really a lot. So they go and start unstructured consuming cloud services everywhere, cloud resources. There is no real control. Oh yeah, it's just a no risk application or something like that. Let's just let them do it. And then when you let one do, then it's another 25 the next week and another 50 the next day and 50, 75. And then at one point you're, oh, what's happening here? We have 10% of our environment running on cloud and we have no idea how it's running. So that's the drive to really low value realization. Someone talked about FinOps before, financial optimization all over the place, nowhere to be seen in their initial areas of consumption and so forth. High overhead for cloud consumption as well. You try to bring everything together. You try to build that platform team. You end up building 5 platform teams. You end up building 20 platform teams, and nobody can control anything. You have no structure, guidance, and so forth. Low visibility, what's happening in cloud. Nobody has that ITIL environment or some kind of structure, visibility, what you need to build. And the last part of this is as well, we increase the complexity of how we consume. Because when you cannot see what's happening and you cannot have this visibility and you can see the spend going up, you start putting rules and gates and everything in through the process there. And usually all those gates initially, they're human driven, which is even worse because you create a big problem and a big overhead into how you run all that and complexity. So, why then going into cloud if you have all these problems, and why do I actually believe, and we believe that we need to move into that DevOps mindset overall? 3 main things. The first one was, of course, we need to bring cost under control, and we need to reduce how we actually spend that money. I'm not saying not spend the money, but we need to be efficient and optimize how we spend the money on the cloud. Same thing from a point of view how we drive cost. So I have a KPI that I have been using for the last 3 companies I work on. Every year, I keep saying the same thing. When you start the year, set a baseline. On that baseline, you need to reduce 10% your costs every year. Doesn't matter what you do, I don't care, but you need to go and reduce 10% your costs. Some of that will be foundational, some of them will be resizing, some of that will be optimization, maybe saving plans, anything like that. But you need to look into optimizing year over year that spend. And that drives a mindset in people into how they can actually be deploying above that baseline as well in an optimized fashion, because they need to keep doing it year over year. The second part is increased agility and flexibility. So we talk about the idea of experimentation. How do I actually allow people to try things, but I don't want them to release GDPR data? But they still need to try with data. Well, how do I make them try with, I was not going to talk about Gen AI, so with something else in the organization in cloud or anything like that. So how do we get faster deployment? How do we reduce incidents? Because we have much more standardized deployments as well. So the second part was very key. So areas are like ephemeral sandboxes. How do we actually get them to kill themselves very quickly or nuke them and so forth through that process much easier? How do we consistently drive the same workflow for deployment? We'll talk about a bit about that later. And the last part, which is super important for me as well, is the whole idea, how do we align security based to the risk appetite of each environment? There is no way you can actually have a single security approach for all your cloud deployments, all your environments across the organization. Each environment will have a different risk appetite. How do you then align that to a set of policies that will align to your data classification, to your risk classification, and so forth? By the way, without increasing overheads, because you cannot have 5 teams for different 5 criticality levels. You cannot have 5 environments for everything. But you can create different policies and create a logic in your policies to be able to deploy in that space. And of course, that needs to happen before you get into production, because when you get into production, you're already doomed. Okay, you're in production, your data is out. If you didn't secure it properly, it's already out. So there's no way back from those kind of models. So you need to do it pre-deployment in those controls and so forth. That's enabled by doing things differently. Okay, and yes, it was not Einstein. It was a fictional character from a novelist. In this case, if you ever read a book from Rita Mae Brown, which is a mystery novel called Sudden Death, there's a lady called Jane Fulton, which actually said insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. I love the quote. And I think it's so easy to find lots of moments of insanity across every part of the organization when you look into it. If you have an organization that is like ours, 152 years old, there's people that have been doing the same thing from 152 years. The same insure model, the same model to deliver something happening over and over again, and it works. So why would you change it? Yeah? But the problem is it worked up to now. We do see that now the new digital capability and the new digital models that are coming to place, they are not going to be the same. So what did we do then? And I like this because it has pictures and stuff like that, which is much better. Okay, so I will start with the right-hand side. What we did was we created the cloud set of services that we could consume in a secure fashion. I will talk about how we did that in a moment by codifying and automating everything. We do a digital on-demand. Someone was talking about self-service before in the roundtables. Is the core principle is I don't want my guys to talk to anyone. I have a much more rude way of saying that, okay, that Caroline knows because she knows me from the past. And it was like, that model was like, I don't want anyone to talk to anyone. Everything should be self-serve in that space. And you need to focus on collaboration with your customers in how you build those self-serve organizations, self-serve models and self-serve process and products. If you don't talk to them in that kind of advisory model, then you're never going to be able to build it every day. So you need to have those conversations going every day, but not conversations to deliver, conversations to build those products. And then the last part is, okay, how and who we did is that cloud product organization that I'm going to talk about how we structure it because it's aligned to the Conway law as well a little bit later. So from a ways of working, moving into that product organization, from a product or what tools we use, we heavily leverage Terraform Cloud. I didn't have a very strong engineering team. So using Terraform Cloud for us drop a massive amount of cognitive load that we need to have as a platform organization to even maintain Terraform Enterprise, for example, or even to go open source in that space. So it was a very conscious decision to go into Terraform Cloud and avoid all that process that we need to have to run Terraform in that space. It helped us to federate the federation, if you want to call it like that. So we are a federation of business units. How do we actually federate consumption of cloud by enabling modules in Terraform? Is not only by managing the landing zone, but then we do a lot of modules that people can consume. If you use and consume those services through the approved golden path, then you're good to go. We know that you're already instrumenting observability in all those models from a Terraform perspective. We know that security have checks in there. We know that that's been pushed out into the security monitoring tool and CSPMs and so forth. And we leverage consistent workloads in Terraform. And starting with Vault. I have been a little bit in there, but we're designing for day two. So things like how do you manage your accounts, how you manage your identities and so forth, they're all designed for day two. I love AWS saying that they live in day one. I don't know how many of you, but we all live in day two. We all get woken up sometime in the middle of the night. We all get called because something happened. That's not happening day one. Usually happens day 2 or 3. Okay, so that's one of the biggest problems. And the last part, which is core for everything that we do in the organization, is accountability. You can eat dog food, you can drink champagne. It's your choice as a team, but you're accountable to deliver those products that we build. We have 4 tenets at the bottom in there that we use. Automation is our friend, and code the way. If do watch Star Wars a bit too much. Collaboration and communication are foundation for all of us as an organization, not only as a team from a cloud point of view. I manage all the DevOps tools as well. I manage all the developer experience now as well. Continuous improvement and minimization of waste. That's another part that we make our world a much better place. If you think about how do we actually drive something, I don't want perfection. I don't care about perfection. What I care is that you keep improving every day something. Every little thing helps, okay? And here in the UK, I think Tesco will be the best option. If every little helps, keep doing it for that. And I keep doing marketing to all the companies as well. And the last part is a hyper focus on user needs. So we try to do really short feedback loops with every company that we have. So every story that we have in the backlog have someone that has requested it or someone that will be benefiting from that story. So we go back to that owner that have delivered that story, and they need to have feedback loops about that story. Every 2 weeks, we do a session in the retro, beside the normal kind of retro on the team, we do a session to actually prioritize to see if that was good, with the customer, understand how that works internally as well. And every 6 weeks, today actually I'm missing it, we have a conversion session where we actually go and bring everyone into a planning and prioritization session for the next 6 weeks release as well. So those type of initiatives bring a huge amount of trust, transparency, and visibility into how things are happening in the organization. So who we are and what the architecture of the overall solution is. At the bottom, you can see what consistency is key for us. That's the part that is non-negotiable. The global landing zone is the global landing zone. Is consistent from an operating model perspective. It has an answer for our regulatory framework. We have one internally that aggregates all the regulatory requirements that we have across the globe. And it complies with the security baseline that we have to comply to as an organization overall. From there, we create a set of accelerators or artifacts that we can use. All of them are in Terraform, so you can use your models in there. You can use anything from an EC2 or a VM in Azure to everything up to Cosmos or an OpenShift cluster in that respect that someone will manage for you or not manage for you. And then we have 3 paths into cloud that I call it. On the right-hand side is the people that actually know what they're doing, that they can do everything self-service. They don't need a lot of hand-holding in that respect. And we have a maturity model that we use based on the cloud adoption framework to assess how mature a team is to be able to self-serve themselves. A middle one, what we do into a joint DevSecOps type model, where we sit with people, we build those pipelines with them, we work through how that is going to enable value for them and how they will measure that value as well. We help them with some of the observability, but it's very much teaching to fish while you're fishing with them. So we don't try to stop and say, hey, I'm going to teach you everything in theory, and then go crack on with it, see if it works. We sit with them, we make it work with them, and then we look into how that's going to work for us and everything. And then the last one, which is people that have not changed their mindset, they have not gone into that kind of iterative model yet. So we look into a traditional kind of infrastructure and application operations type model. In that model, we are trying to look into, hey, let's give me another choice. We optimize these things, or automate this other piece. So there you go, that can improve in that respect. The last part of the top, the two things that are very important for me now, so we have the main focus this year. One of them is all the pre-integrated DevSecOps toolkit that we drive. We have two paths in there, and we'll prefer to have only one, but we have two at the moment. And then the developer experience of DevHub, we call it internally, which actually aggregates all this and provides the developer all visibility across the software development lifecycle, how that's going to happen. And the software development lifecycle includes operational observability. So it includes the visibility of what's happening day two when they drop something into production, because they need to be on call in that respect as well. Okay, so we are seeing lots of value already. From the point of view, this slide will be somewhere for you to watch into it as well. I'm not going to go through all the numbers, but it takes us between 12 and 14 weeks to deploy the construct of a landing zone. Before we move it into 4 hours in that respect. We move something more important from a day two perspective, which is the management of the accounts, into a consistent fashion. So every night we do in parallel all the accounts running again. So all of them go, if anyone managed to find a loophole to change something on the account, they go back to zero. So they go back to being clean. So every night that happens again. So you have that consistency happening, and we can easily and consistently reporting back to the regulator about those things. So you can see all that, and I'm happy to answer any questions on that, but I know I have 3 minutes left. So I will give you the 3 points to take home in the last 3 minutes of this, okay? The first one is you're gonna have lots of ideas, lots of different roads that people want to go through, lots of different options. At some point, you need to drive a consistent baseline. There is no way that you're gonna get a Lego to click on an empty floor. They just don't. So the baseline, the foundation, need to have the right interface and the right integration point, the right points for consistently being able to build on top of that. So that consistently need to be key into how you drive everything, and it's key. That's non-negotiable across the board. The second part is last year or the 2 years before, we concentrate probably a bit too much in who I call is my customer internally, who pays for the recharges that we provide internally. We need to concentrate into customer visibility, that customer that pays, but it's more important to concentrate on the developer experience. If the developer experience is bad, you're never going to get anyone to adopt it. I mean, someone was talking about, before in the round table as well, that you get, if you force someone to do something, they're likely to find a loophole and do something else. Okay? So if you give them a massive, super good experience, they will just come to you. They will just work with you. They will get closer to you and help you improve what you're doing in that respect. Hear them, listen to them, and go in that respect. And the last part I was going to mention to you as well, everyone talk about FinOps as a reactive type fashion in that respect. Everyone talk about security and how to create visibility and so forth. You have to shift it left. We have lots of initiatives into how we actually restrict a set of policies from a financial optimization perspective. We look into how do we actually drive the possibility of consuming saving plans in a more optimized way to drive a better cost profile in that respect as well. We look into consistently retrofitting from the operational visibility that we have in FinOps into that kind of shifting left in that respect into how we control what templates get deployed and so forth. Same thing from security. If you can create that security baseline up front, before anything gets deployed, before anything gets through the pipeline, you're already winning. So the more you can actually keep pushing back, pushing left, many of those controls and those many of those controls and policies, the better you're going to be in that respect. And it doesn't matter. You don't need to be perfect day zero. The important part is continuously keep trying to push left in all those areas. And that's going to give you a continuous improvement. And that's much better place to be at the end. With that, thank you very much. And pleasure to be here.